My husband's mistress turned pale when I showed up at their fancy hotel room. I never thought I'd be that wife, the one blindsided, the one humiliated, the one whose husband was living a double life right under her nose. But there I was, standing outside a five-star hotel, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy his little fantasy world. It started a few weeks ago when the pieces didn't add up. Late nights at work, sudden weekend conferences, a new obsession with his appearance. At first, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he really was just busy. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then, the mistake happened. He left his email open on our shared laptop. I wasn't looking for anything, I just needed to check my own email. But the subject line caught my eye. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. My stomach dropped. The message itself was even worse. Details of their night together, inside jokes, plans for their next romantic getaway, and at the bottom, a hotel reservation. I stared at it for a long time, my hands clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. He wasn't just sleeping with her, he was whisking her away to luxury hotels, probably wining and dining her like she was some kind of queen while I was home taking care of everything else. That's when the rage set in. I could have confronted him right then and there. I could have screamed, cried, begged for answers. But no, he didn't deserve that kind of reaction from me. He didn't deserve my pain. He deserved consequences. For the next few days, I planned. I didn't let on that I knew anything. I kissed him goodbye in the morning, texted him casually throughout the day, even asked about his business trip like I always did. And all the while, I was plotting. I made arrangements for everything: who would watch the kids, what I would wear, how I would handle every possible reaction. I wasn't going to just catch him. I was going to make sure this moment burned into his memory forever. So I packed a bag, booked a separate room at the same hotel, and waited. The night of their little rendezvous, I got there early. I sat in the hotel bar watching as couples came and went, sipping a drink I barely tasted. The place was dimly lit, filled with the hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. A pianist played in the corner, something slow and romantic, the kind of music that made the whole place feel like a scene from a movie. I scanned the room, wondering how many other people were here doing exactly what my husband was doing. Affairs weren't rare. Hotels like this practically thrived on them. But knowing I was the wife in the dark, the one being betrayed, made my blood boil all over again. I wasn't nervous. I was done. Done being the fool. Done being the one left behind. Done pretending this marriage was something it wasn't. And when I finally saw them walk in together, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world, something inside me clicked. He looked good. Too good. He had dressed up for her in a way he never did for me anymore. His suit was perfectly tailored, his hair styled just right, and he carried himself with the confidence of a man who thought he had everything under control. And her? She was exactly what I expected. Young, beautiful, the kind of woman who probably thought she was special, that she was the exception, that he really loved her. It was almost pathetic. I watched them from my seat at the bar unnoticed. He had no idea I was there. I let them get comfortable, let him order her a drink, let them bask in the illusion of their little love story for a few minutes longer. Then I stood up. My hands were steady as I grabbed my purse. I walked with purpose toward the elevator, every step bringing me closer to the moment I'd been waiting for. He thought he was in control. He thought he was untouchable. But in just a few minutes, he was going to learn exactly how wrong he was. The elevator ride felt endless, even though it was only a few floors up. My pulse was steady, my breathing calm, but the fire in my chest burned hotter with every passing second. This was it. No turning back, no second guessing. I knew exactly what I was walking into. I had memorized the room number from his email, Suite 1203. Of course he booked a suite. Nothing but the best for his little fling, right? The thought made my jaw tighten, but I refused to let my emotions take over. Not yet. The hallway was quiet except for the faint hum of soft jazz playing through the hotel's sound system. I stopped in front of their door, adjusting the strap of my bag, steadying myself. I wasn't sure what I expected. Muffled laughter? The sound of movement inside? The reality was silence. They were probably still downstairs, sipping their drinks, thinking they had all the time in the world. That was fine. I could wait. I pulled a key card from my purse, one I had very easily convinced the front desk to give me. It was amazing what a few tears and a well-rehearsed story about a forgetful husband could do. The concierge had been all too sympathetic, handing me the spare key without hesitation. I slid the card into the reader, the light turned green, and the door clicked open. The suite was even more extravagant than I expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city skyline, expensive champagne chilled in a bucket of ice, and a king-sized bed sat in the center of the room, its pristine white sheets waiting to be ruined. I stepped inside, closing the door softly behind me. The air smelled of roses and expensive cologne. My husband's cologne. The same one I had bought him for our anniversary last year. The irony almost made me laugh. I took my time looking around. A suitcase sat by the closet, hers, no doubt. A silk robe was draped over the armchair. On the nightstand, two glasses were set out, waiting to be filled. It was all so perfectly staged, like something out of a romance movie. Too bad this wasn't going to have a happy ending. I walked over to the bed, smoothing a hand over the expensive sheets. How many times had I slept alone in our own bed while he was out doing this? How many times had I put the kids to sleep, thinking he was working late when he was really here playing house with her? My chest tightened, but I pushed the emotions down. I wasn't here to cry. I was here to end this. The sound of the elevator dinging in the hallway pulled me from my thoughts. Footsteps. Laughter. They were coming. I turned, making my way toward the armchair in the corner. I sank into it, crossing my legs, resting my hands on my lap. I wanted to be the first thing they saw when they walked in. The key card beeped, the door swung open, and then silence, a sharp inhale, a gasp. I lifted my gaze and met her eyes first. She was frozen in the doorway, her face draining of color so fast I thought she might faint. My husband was right behind her, his arm around her waist, his smile still lingering from whatever joke he had just made. Until he saw me. That smile vanished instantly. His whole body went rigid, his hand dropping from her waist like she had suddenly turned to fire. His eyes widened, his mouth opening slightly like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I just sat there, calm and composed, watching them squirm. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady. "Hope I'm not interrupting." For a few long, agonizing seconds, no one spoke. The tension in the room was thick, suffocating. My husband stood in the doorway like a deer caught in headlights while his little girlfriend looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. I let the silence stretch, enjoying how their faces twisted with panic, let them stew in it. Finally, my husband found his voice. What? What are you doing here?" His voice cracked on the last word. I leaned back in the chair, tilting my head slightly. "Oh, I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd stop by and see my loving husband." I let my eyes flick over to the woman beside him. "But it looks like you already have company." She made a small noise, like she wanted to protest, but didn't know what to say. I could see it all over her face, the realization, the horror, the shame. Good. She should be ashamed. "I can explain," my husband rushed out, stepping forward, hands raised like he was trying to calm a wild animal. "It's not what it looks like." I almost laughed at how cliché he sounded. Not what it looked like, really? I gestured around the room. The champagne, the perfectly made bed, the expensive robe draped over the chair. Not what it looks like? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "So, what is it then? A business meeting? A Bible study?" His face turned red. He had nothing. Absolutely nothing. I turned my attention to her. "And you," I said smoothly. "Did he tell you he was married?" Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. I. She stopped, glancing at my husband. I watched the silent exchange between them. He had told her. She knew. Maybe he had fed her some lie about how I was cold, distant, not supportive. Maybe he told her he was planning to leave me, that she was special. They always do. She clenched her fists at her sides like she was trying to keep it together. "I didn't," I held up a hand. "Save it. I don't need to hear your excuses. You knew exactly what you were doing." She shut her mouth, looking down. My husband took another step toward me, desperation creeping into his voice. "Please, let's just talk about this." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Talk? Oh, now you want to talk? You had plenty of opportunities for that before you decided to sneak around behind my back." I stood up, smoothing out my dress. "But don't worry, I didn't come here to argue with you." His forehead creased. "Then why?" I pulled a manila envelope from my bag and tossed it onto the bed. It landed with a soft thud, but the weight of what was inside was enough to make my husband's face drain of color. "What is that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. "Divorce papers." His mouth opened, but no words came out. "I had them drawn up last week," I continued, my voice even. "Figured I'd make things easier for you since you clearly don't want to be married anymore." I turned to the mistress, tilting my head slightly. Congratulations, he's all yours. Her eyes widened. Wait, I. But I wasn't interested in what she had to say. She wasn't my problem. I turned back to my husband. I'm done, Eric. Done with the lies, the sneaking around, the complete disrespect. I'm not going to sit around and be the oblivious wife while you play house with someone else. He ran a hand over his face, looking like he was about to be sick. Please, can we just. No. My voice was firm, final. I deserve better than this. Our kids deserve better than this. That seemed to hit him the hardest. His face twisted, like he had just remembered he had a family. Don't bring them into this. I narrowed my eyes. Oh, now you care about them? Funny. You didn't seem to be thinking about them when you booked this room. He had no response to that. I grabbed my purse, adjusting it over my shoulder. I'll have my lawyer reach out to you in the morning. Oh, and don't bother coming home tonight. I already changed the locks. That got a reaction. His eyes snapped up. You what? I smiled sweetly. Actions have consequences, Eric. Maybe you should have thought of that before you decided to betray your family. I turned on my heel, walking toward the door. The mistress was still standing there, frozen, looking between me and my husband like she had just realized she wasn't in a fairy tale after all. As I reached the door, I glanced over my shoulder. Oh, and one more thing, I said casually. The hotel knows about your little arrangement. I had a nice chat with the manager earlier. Something about fraudulently using our joint credit card for this little getaway. They weren't too happy about that. His face turned a shade paler. I smirked. Enjoy your night. And with that, I walked out, leaving them both standing there, drowning in their own mess. The hotel room door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. It was like a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had finally lifted. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry anymore either. There was just this strange sense of calm, like I had finally closed a chapter of my life that had been dragging on far too long. I knew Eric would try to reach out, that he'd have some desperate attempt to spin this into something that made him the victim, but I wasn't going to give him that chance. As I made my way down the hall, I could hear faint arguing behind the door. Eric's voice was frantic, defensive, a tone I had heard before when he was backed into a corner. The woman's voice, though, was something else. I couldn't make out the words, but I recognized the sharp, accusatory tone. Maybe she was realizing she wasn't special after all. Maybe she was starting to see him the way I had come to see him, selfish, manipulative, and a liar to the core. But that wasn't my problem anymore. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside, pressing the button for the lobby. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a single text from my best friend. Did you do it? I smirked and typed back, it's done. There was a pause, then another message. Proud of you. The hotel lobby was busy, filled with people who had no idea that a marriage had just imploded upstairs. It was funny in a way how something so life-changing for me was just another forgettable moment in the grand scheme of the world. I walked outside, and there was Jenna, parked exactly where she said she'd be, waiting for me. She didn't even ask if I was okay. She just unlocked the door, and I slid into the passenger seat. So, she asked as she pulled back onto the street, how was the grand finale? I stared out the window for a second before answering. He didn't see it coming. Jenna let out a low whistle. Good. I leaned back in the seat, letting the city lights blur past. He tried to act like I was being crazy at first, like I had somehow misunderstood the situation. Jenna snorted. Classic. Then, when he saw I wasn't buying it, he panicked, tried to tell me he still loved me. I shook my head. Like love has anything to do with what he did. Jenna's grip on the wheel tightened. You know what? I hate that. I hate when they cheat and then try to convince you that they still love you. Like, dude, you stepped out. You don't get to cry about it now. I sighed. Yeah, well, he's her problem now. Jenna was quiet for a moment, then said, so, what's next? I thought about it. For months, my life had revolved around this, the suspicions, the late nights wondering, the confrontation I had been building up to. Now that it was over, I wasn't sure what to do with myself. I don't know, I admitted. She glanced over at me. That's kind of exciting, though, isn't it? You're free now. You can do whatever you want. I hadn't really thought of it like that. For years, my life had been tied to Eric's. My plans, my choices, they had all factored him in. But now, I was starting from scratch. It was terrifying, but there was a strange thrill to it, too. Jenna grinned. Okay, hear me out. Revenge vacation. I raised an eyebrow. Revenge what now? You heard me, she said. You just nuked your marriage. You deserve a break. We should book a trip, go somewhere warm, get drunk on a beach, and remind you that life is actually fun when you're not dealing with a lying, cheating husband. I laughed. Jenna. Nope, don't Jenna me, she interrupted. You owe it to yourself. Just say yes. I hesitated. The practical part of me said it was a bad idea. I should be focused on figuring out my next steps, not running away to drink cocktails on a beach. But the exhausted, drained part of me, that part was screaming for me to do it. I exhaled. Okay, let's do it. Jenna slammed her hand on the wheel triumphantly. Yes, we're going to have so much fun, I swear. By the time she pulled up in front of my apartment, I felt lighter. The past few months had been nothing but stress and heartache, but tonight was the start of something new, something better. Jenna put the car in park. You good? I nodded. Yeah, I think I actually am. She smiled. Good. Now go inside, take a long bath, and get some sleep. Tomorrow, we start planning your getaway. I rolled my eyes but smiled. Night, Jenna. Night, boss lady. I climbed out of the car and walked up to my apartment, my steps feeling lighter than they had in years. The moment I stepped inside, I took a deep breath, taking in the quiet. No Eric, no lies, no wondering where he was or who he was with. Just peace. I walked to my bedroom and tossed my bag on the bed. My eyes landed on the manila envelope sitting on my dresser, the second set of divorce papers I had left in that hotel room. I picked it up, flipping through the crisp pages. It was official. Soon, I'd be free in every way that mattered, and the best part? I didn't regret a single thing.